I just want to say that this initiative is very much an initiative for not only us as Rotarians, but working with other Rotarians as well. And so we're going to move to our first speaker. Ludwig, can you start with telling us your story and why you're so passionate about good mental health?
Dear friends in Rotary, I would like to speak very personally today. In Rotary, we are used to talk about service, leadership, and impact. But today, we talk about something different. We talk about what happens when leadership becomes emotionally overwhelming. When I took over a leadership position in a Rotary action group, I inherited several difficult situations from the previous term. One issue involved changes in membership structure, including sensitive DEI-related discussions. These changes had actually made one chapter stronger and larger, but they also created tensions and uncertainty. A second problem was governance. There were different versions of bylaws in circulation, and it was unclear who had which role, vice chair, chair-elect, responsibilities, and authority. The third issue was financial structure. Budgets were managed in different areas without full transparency and without clear accountability. So instead of one problem, there were several at the same time. And very quickly, I found myself standing between two opposing groups. Each side expected leadership. Each side expected decisions. Each side expected support. And I tried to keep everything together, but inside, I was falling apart. At one point, the pressure became too much. I had two emotional breakdowns. I could not sleep. I could not think clearly anymore. I felt exhausted, irritated, and empty. For the first time in my life, I seriously considered resigning immediately and leaving the board completely. What helped me in that moment was not a rule, not a policy, not a leadership manual. It was a person. An older friend looked at me and said, "Stop, Ludwig. You cannot continue like this. You must take care of yourself first." Another former chairman supported me and encouraged me to step back, to slow down, and to get professional advice. I spoke with a psychologist friend who told me very directly, "This sounds like burnout." Later, I consulted a physician specialized in stress medicine. His assessment was clear. He said, "If you remove the stressors, your health can recover. But if you continue like this, you will get seriously ill." That moment changed my view on leadership. One of the most important recommendations I received was unexpected. My friend said, "You should learn meditation, not occasionally, regularly." He recommended transcendental meditation. I was skeptical at first, but I tried it. Now I practice every day, usually twice a day, about 20 minutes. And I can honestly say, this changed my life. I became calmer. I react less emotionally. I recover faster from stress. I can lead with more clarity. Meditation is not religion. It is not ideology. It is mental hygiene. We train our bodies. We train our skills, but we rarely train our minds. And Rotary leaders especially need this because we carry responsibility without always having protection. This experience led me to a strong conviction. We should not wait until leaders break down. We should prepare them before. I believe Rotary should include mental resilience training in leadership development at the International Assembly, at governors training, at zone institutes, at district seminars, not as therapy, as prevention. This training should include 5 things: how to recognize burnout, how to communicate under pressure, how to deal with conflict, how to support members in crisis, and how to protect your own mental health. And we should also teach practical tools. One excellent concept is mental health first aid with the simple LGE model. LGE stands for approach, listen, give support, encourage professional help, encourage self-help. Every Rotary leader should know this. Not because we are weak, because we care. Another important lesson for me: no leader should be alone. Every leader should have a mentor, someone outside the conflict. Someone can say the truth. Someone who can say, stop, you need a break. Rotary must be a safe place, not only for communities, but for Rotarians. Let me finish with this. Rotary is built on service, but service is done by people. If we want to serve the world, we must protect the people who serve. We need more awareness, more kindness, more listening, more resilience, and forgiveness. And sometimes the strongest leadership decision is not to push harder. It is to stop, to breathe, and to take care of your mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ludwig. Again, that was a great presentation. And I think we all can relate that either we or others have been challenged sometimes with having this, having this discussion. But it was the next person that will be speaking, past RI President Gordon McNally, trustee and soon to be chair of the Rotary Foundation, that taught us about the bottle. So we are breaking the cycle. We are breaking the system. It reminds me of when we talk about women that are in leadership roles. It took a while for women to get there. And so we used to call it breaking the ceiling, breaking the glass ceiling. Well, Gordon came along and he broke the mental health ceiling. So for all of us, we're very happy to have Gordon with us and thank him for all that he has done to lead us to good mental health and to help others to be healthy as well. So Gordon, it's all yours.
Well, thank you so much, Pat. So it really is an honor and a privilege to be with you today. And I appreciate that each of you has made space in your busy day to focus on something that sits at the heart of strong leadership, the well-being of the people we serve and the well-being of the people we serve with. So let me begin by offering a personal warm welcome and by acknowledging how important and I believe how timely this conversation is for Rotary. This webinar is about mental health, but it's also about something broader. It is about the culture we create within our clubs, our districts, and our wider Rotary family. Culture isn't built by policies or slogans. It's built by everyday interactions, by the tone we set, the words we choose, and the way we respond when somebody is struggling. As leaders, we shape that culture more than we sometimes realise. I'd like us all to hold on to one simple idea as we continue. Kindness is leadership. Not a soft extra, not something we get when everything else is done, but a core part of how we lead. In Rotary, leadership isn't, or at any rate, leadership should not be about titles or hierarchy. It's about how we show up for one another, especially when things are difficult. Let me touch on just a very few themes that I hope will continue to guide our thinking and our conversation today, some of which Ludwig has touched on already. First, the way we communicate with one another matters deeply. A thoughtful message, a moment of patience, and I thank you for the patience you've shown in allowing me to join late, a word of encouragement. These things can change the course of someone's day. And the opposite is true as well. A sharp email, or a dismissive comment, or a careless remark can do real harm. As leaders, we set the tone. We can choose to make kindness the default. Second, when issues arise, and they always do, it's important that we address them personally and respectfully. We've all seen how easily tone gets lost in virtual communication. A frustrated email can escalate a situation that a simple one-to-one conversation could have resolved. Cyberbullying, disrespect, or using email as a shield for harshness has no place in Rotary. We can disagree, we can challenge, we can debate, but we must always do so with dignity. Thirdly, we're living in a world that feels unsettled. Anxiety is high, very high, between nations, within communities, and often within individuals. People are carrying burdens we may never see. That makes our role even more important. We are Rotary members. We are meant to be a source of calm, of understanding, and of compassion. In times like these, our example matters more than ever. And finally, we need to build each other up. Leadership is not about standing above others. It's about lifting others when they stumble. When someone is having a difficult day, and they're overwhelmed, or when they're simply not themselves, our instinct should be to reach out. A kind word, a small gesture, a moment of genuine interest. These things can make a profound difference. As Pat's already said, none of us is immune to difficult days, but none of us should face them alone. This is the heart of today's conversation, creating a Rotary where people feel safe, respected and supported. A Rotary where kindness is normal. A Rotary where we look out for one another. Not because it's required, but it's because of who we are. And a Rotary where mental well-being is recognised as essential to strong leadership and strong service. So thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about this work. And thank you for the leadership you show, not just in what you do, but in how you treat the people around you. I am looking forward to the remainder of this meeting. and to the practical steps we can take together to strengthen the well-being of our members and ultimately the impact of our organisation. Thank you so much. And with that, I'd like to hand back to Pat.
Thank you, Gordon, and thank you so much for all your words of inspiration and actually speaking the truth. Because I truly believe that when you cracked open that bottle and let us have our feelings and emotions and the good days and the bad days out, that we really have opened up. And I truly believe, with the issues going on in the world and communities, that you're right. We need to support each other because we don't know what somebody's feeling. And I always love your saying, "How are you feeling, really?" And that's what we should be asking and talking to each other. So again, practicing kindness and just stopping and saying a few words. And with that, Ludwig laid the groundwork for how he entered into good mental health. And so we all need to be looking at ways that we can do that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Larry Kubiak. Larry is a practicing psychologist. He's also Larry is also a past director, I'm sorry, past district governor. And he is a psychologist that has been speaking around Rotary world for a while. And he has some great ideas and ways that we can also utilize good services, mental health services, and just the techniques in that. So, Larry, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Pat. And I want to say, boy, if Gordon was honored to follow Ludwig, I'm honored to follow Ludwig and Gordon. I mean, what a tremendous way to start us off, Ludwig. What a powerful message. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but obviously you have emerged so much stronger. And I always say Gordon is the most mentally health-oriented international president we've ever had, and we are so blessed to have had him leading us. I'm a psychologist. I've been a mental health professional for over 50 years. I've been a director of a psychological inpatient facility. I have found through our action group to have a great opportunity to help promote my passions for mental health in Rotary. And I have been teaching resilience for Rotary Youth Exchange and in RILA and have developed toolkits for that. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things today. And I want you to know that my PowerPoints and a couple of handouts are available to any of the participants because I can only speak so fast and there's so much stuff to cover, but I want you to have all of that information that we have. I was asked to talk about depression, anxiety, burnout. When do you know that you need professional help? How do you know how to seek that? And how do we support each other? And again, Ludwig found a very good avenue through that through meditation, and that may be for you too, but there are a lot of other avenues. You can never have too many tools in your toolkit. Let me talk a little bit about depression. Now, if I could see your hands, how many of you in here have never been depressed? I probably will not see any hands. If you are a human being, you're going to be depressed and you're going to be anxious. If you lose a pet, if you get divorced, if you fail a test, if you have a medical issue, if you don't get depressed, we're going to be even more worried about you. But what I get most worried about is when people get to the point of clinical depression. And probably the two most common, and I don't want to, this is not about diagnosing and so on, but two most common depressive diagnoses are dysthymia and major depression. And some of the symptoms to look for if you're experiencing more severe depression is, and you can have extremes in either very poor appetite or overeating. It can go to either extreme. You're outside your normal with that. Insomnia or hypersomnia. You have trouble sleeping or you're sleeping too much. You have low energy or fatigue. If you're severely depressed, it drains you. You have no energy to do things. The slightest activity is overwhelming for you. Low self-esteem. You don't feel very good about yourself. You feel like you're worthless. You can't accomplish anything. You have difficulty concentrating and have difficulty making decisions. The smallest decisions may be overwhelming to you. Sometimes when people have poor concentration, they think you may have ADHD, but that's also a symptom for anxiety. And then feelings of hopelessness. Things are bad. They're not going to get any better. It's almost like you have blinders on and can only see what's in front of you and can't see the other possibilities out there. If that occurs for at least 2 years, that can be an indication of dysthymia. Major depression includes most of those symptoms, but a much more severe experience of them. You're certainly very depressed or irritable. You're not interested in the thing. You may not want to go to Rotary anymore. You may be an exerciser and you choose not to exercise or work in the garden or artwork or be with friends or things like that. You may have severe weight loss or weight gain, severe insomnia or hypersomnia. You may have psychomotor agitation or retardation. You might be like wired up continuously or just so lethargic it's hard to get up out of a chair. Loss of energy. Again, depression, it drains you severely. Feelings of worthlessness and guilt. I am not worth anything. I should not have been born. I'm never going to accomplish anything. Why am I taking up oxygen in this world? Poor concentration and indecisiveness. Again, hard to concentrate, hard to get anything done. It affects your work, your relationships, your health, and so on. And then most severely, with major depression, will be suicidal thoughts or attempts. Working in a psychiatric hospital, that's the key that gets so many people in the hospital, thoughts or attempts to actually hurt yourself. So depression is part of being a human. In its worst cases, suicide is most common in major depression, more so than any other mental health issue that we have. Unfortunately, a lot of times when it gets to that point, it may lead to psychiatric hospitalization, but it is very treatable with medication, with cognitive behavioral therapy, and so on. Now, I also want to talk about anxiety. Probably if we're looking at a category of disorder that's the most common in the mental health field, it's anxiety. And there are a lot of different anxiety disorders. Again, the only way to not have anxiety in your life is to be a rock. And I don't want to go through life like a rock. I don't know about you. But the challenge is how to have enough anxiety that motivates us without disabling us. If you've got a big exam coming up, and if you don't care anything about it, you don't even study the night before, you go in, you're probably not going to do very well. On the other hand, if you're so anxious about it that you can't sleep, you're studying all night, you're so sweaty that you can't even hold on to the pencil when you get there, you're probably not going to do well. So you need enough anxiety to energize you, to inspire you, but without disabling you. So it kind of follows what we refer to as a butterfly curve. And anxiety is probably the most common when we talk about burnout, and burnout in our work, in our relationships, in Rotary. And unfortunately, as had been said earlier, we've lost too many wonderful people in Rotary because of burnout. I've seen divorces as a result of some of the stress related to the demands of being a district governor or other a responsible role in Rotary and so on. What are some of those signs of severe anxiety? And we won't go into all the different facets of it, but restlessness, feeling keyed up, easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating, irritability. So a lot of those can be very common also in depression. You may have muscle tension. And Ludwig was talking about meditation. And certainly that's a good way to help deal with some of that muscle tension. Again, sleep disturbance, those kinds of things. When we're talking about something like post-traumatic stress disorder, I live in Florida and we have had so many hurricanes. There are so many people that have had PTSD as a result of, and that can happen to anybody at any time. And sometimes we think of it first came about as a result of people who came back from war. But what we're finding is that any kind of trauma, and it could even be related to Rotary, some trauma in relationships, expectations, and so on. So a trauma can be very different. and and a experiencing of of a traumatic event. It changes our thinking and our mood. We become oversensitive to things, hyper aroused, and so on. Panic disorder, I do a lot of interviews with people. Panic disorder is a very, very common thing. A lot of times your heart is pounding. You are doing a lot of sweating. You tremble, you shake. It's hard to catch your breath. You may feel like you're choking. A lot of times it feels like there's a heavy weight on your chest. You may have nausea, abdominal distress, feel dizzy, unsteady, lightheaded, faint. You may have ear sensations. You may have chills or hear things differently than they might be experienced otherwise. People often tell me that they can't feel their extremities. They go numb, or they may have tingling sensations in theirs. Feelings of reality. I feel like I'm not in my body. I feel like I'm not really here. I'm like in a movie or something. Fear of losing control. I'm going crazy. I need to be locked up. A fear that you may die. And then we have things like obsessive compulsive disorder, where people get obsessed. Now we all want to. It's very normal. For instance, if you go to the restroom, we take care of our business. We'll wash our hands once, and then we're out of there. But sometimes people feel like they need to wash their hands 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. If it takes you an hour to get out of the bathroom because you're so obsessed about cleanliness that you wash your hands 20 times, that's a problem. That interferes with your work, your relationships, and so on. And I'm increasingly seeing a lot of people with obsessive compulsive disorder, where it was extremely less common back in the day. Again, anxiety disorders are the most common category. It's certainly not unusual for people to have more than one. There's no medication specific to each type, but there are a lot of medications that can be helpful. But there are a lot of therapies, and again, I go back to Ludwig and seeing a therapist, but also obviously he talked to someone, and there are a lot of very, very helpful therapies. How do you know when it's time for you to seek out help? What are some of the things that you might be asking yourself? Have things that used to feel easy started feeling difficult? Does the idea of doing like daily tasks like making your bed now feel really, really hard to do? Have you lost interest in activities and hobbies that you used to enjoy? You like to play the piano, you like to garden, you like to go for walks, and you don't want to do any of that stuff anymore. Does the slightest little thing irritate you to the point that you lash out, especially to those that you love? I mean, maybe you have a pet, and maybe you become extremely cruel toward that pet. You've had a bad day at work and you come out and kick the dog, heaven forbid. But you find you have an overwhelming and prolonged sense of helplessness and sadness, and feel like those things will just not go away. Again, you feel like you have tunnel vision. You can't see any way out of that. You worry excessively, and you're always expecting the worst to happen. I'm gonna die tomorrow. I just can't handle this anymore. You do things that may be harmful to you. You say things, you do things that can be harmful to you. You're troubled by, the slightest little emotional thing going on with someone else in your family or your friends becomes your sole focus. And not that we shouldn't be concerned about those, but again, you have this fatalistic attitude about that. But what do you do? And Gordon has said, I always tell people, you've got 2 ears. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Now, I think that means that he wants us to listen twice as much as we talk. Unfortunately, most of us do the opposite. When I give talks, I ask people, do you have at least one person in your life that you can reach out to at any time, who will listen to you without judging and are there for you? If you have that, you are more wealthy than the richest person in the world. That is the most important thing. I always say that one of the greatest gifts we can give to people is to truly listen. It takes our time, it takes our effort, but to truly be heard by someone. Instead of when a teenager talks to their parent, they turn on parent tape number 101 about why you should do this, shouldn't do that. Do you really listen to your child? Do you really listen to your spouse? Do you listen to your fellow Rotarians? If you don't have that person in your life, try to be that for someone else. We talk about active listening, listening with the third ear, listening for the emotions behind the words and so on. So be that kind of person who can do that. Where do you look for help? Well, first of all, talk to your family, friends, ask for their recommendations. There are a lot of different professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health counselors, marriage and family therapists. They all have state or country associations you can reach out to that can make you aware of some of those that might be available in your area. And certainly one of the good things that took place as a result of COVID was we learned about telehealth. And I can say that a lot of my colleagues have used telehealth, and it is a tremendous value. Now, while the ideal perhaps would be to see someone in person, that's not always possible. One of our psychiatrists before COVID, his no-show rate might be 30%. But afterwards, when everybody could access him through telehealth, the no-show rate was 0%. So don't be afraid to take advantage of telehealth opportunities out there as well. Ask your primary care physician. A lot of them have found certain therapists to be helpful with their patients. So go to your physician. A lot of times your depression and anxiety might be related to some medical issues, so it doesn't hurt to have a good physical evaluation to see how much that may be part of it. But ask them, and they've got some recommendations as well. Inquire at your place of worship. Again, a lot of priests, rabbis, ministers, while some of them are trained and comfortable doing this kind of thing, if not, they know the other avenues out there. Look in the phone book or the internet. Check with your local mental health association. In the United States, the National Alliance for Mental Illness does a tremendous amount of great work in this area, and it's important to go through them. And then various mental health locator services. And again, the American Psychological Association can make you aware of them, but the American Psychiatric Association, social workers, and so on. So the worst thing to do is to do nothing. So make sure that you reach out to other people and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. And again, we can't give Gordon too much credit, but how many of us go and ask, well, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. Okay. But, when Gordon said, how are you really doing? How are you really doing? Then that tells somebody that, I'm not just looking for that surface, oh, I'm okay. I'm really going to listen to you. I'm going to take my time to listen to what you've got to say. And I know that there's one club in my district that they start their meeting with that. And so that club has particularly heard your message there, Gordon. So be that person who asks how you're really doing, and be that person who's the good listener so that they will actually speak up. I probably used up all my time. Again, I have PowerPoint slides and so on. Those are available. I have to say, in addition, that we have our action group has toolkits. I developed one for RILA. Next week, I'm going to RILA, and I'm teaching about resilience at RILA. We are developing a toolkit for Rotarians on how very much the things that Ludwig is talking about. I was asked to speak at the Zone Summit in Jacksonville this last year, and am working on a toolkit for any district in the world to be able to work with their district governors. They particularly asked for that because they knew the stresses that they were experiencing, and they wanted something to give them some skills on that. So that's in the PowerPoint. We don't have time to go through all that, but again, be the person. Listen with that third ear. Um, be there for people, show them that you care. There's nothing, and Rotary has given me more opportunities to do that than any other than I can think of. And again, thank Gordon for opening our eyes to that and giving us that permission to reach out and to take care of each other. We can't take care of other people. We do so much good in the world, but we can't take care of other people unless we take care of ourselves first. We can't give unless we're in a position to take care of ourselves first. So make sure that you do that. And there are a lot of good tools for that, and take advantage of the tools that we have available for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. That was just spectacular. I always learn from you. Every time I listen to you, I get more information. So we've just had Ludwig, who is a practicing physician as well, I should say, and he needed to seek help. He knew that he was in a dark place. And we've heard from Gordon how important it is to be kind and how it's not just about us, it's about other people too. And then Larry really outlining, the signs and symptoms and also what can be done. So again, for individuals as well as for others. There is a Q&A. So if you have any questions for the speakers, you can put your questions in the Q&A and we'll answer them at the Q&A session in about 10 minutes. Our next speaker is Rita Agarwal, and she is a psychologist, 35 years practicing, and chair of the Mental Health Action Group of Mental Health Initiatives. She also was in 2024, she was named one of the 6 Rotary People of Action, and she has been named the 2025 Eminent Psychologist of the Year in India. So we have with us Rita. Rita.
A very warm good evening from India. A very warm welcome to all the distinguished Rotarians around the world on this webinar. A heartfelt thanks to our patron and past President Gordon McNally and past Vice President and Director on the board, Patricia. And thank you, Patricia, for putting this together on behalf of the Action Group for Mental Health. I'm very happy today. It's a very good opportunity where we have a lot of people worrying about mental health of Rotarians and not just serving the society. To simplify things, let's just understand that there are 2 things in life that we have to manage. One is yourself, which is self-management, and the second is to manage the others in the world. Now, there are various techniques through which we can manage the self. The first and most important one being awareness of yourself. Who are you? What are your needs? What are your desires? What are your expectations from yourself? What are your goals, ambitions? And what do you want to achieve? You also ask yourself a number of questions about your own personality traits. Are you friendly? Are you a loner? Do you bottle yourself up, or can you express your feelings to others? Can you share yourself with others? Are you a positive thinker or a negative thinker? Do you have optimism and hope in your personality? Can you manage your emotions? Can you regulate your emotions? Can you control your emotions? Do you have enthusiasm for work? And do you have enthusiasm for compassion for others? You can manage yourself better if each of us spend at least 15 to 20 minutes per day listening to our minds and our bodies, which means put aside everything at the end of the day or in the beginning of the day or twice a day to be with yourself and to listen to yourself, to understand and evaluate more and more about yourself, which brings awareness of yourself. And that is using your higher intelligence to manage and understand yourself. The second thing is management of others and the people we are related to. My family, my friends, my colleagues, Rotarians, and strangers whom we meet every day. This can be done by cultivation of pro-social behavior. What does it mean? What do we mean by pro-social behavior? It means the development of a number of good skills, which are some of them which have been already mentioned. For example, active listening. So important to listen to people carefully with your head and your heart. Non-judgmental attitude towards people. Development of empathy, kindness, compassion, caring and sharing for others. This is spirituality. Spirituality is nothing but compassion for others and caring and sharing for each other. Pro-social behavior also includes maintaining integrity and good moral and ethical behavior. To evaluate yourself as leaders in Rotary on the four-way test, which is such a beautiful practical tool in everybody's hands in Rotary, I would request every leader to evaluate their behavior on the four-way test and take a good look at themselves, where they stand. So, pro-social behavior means justice, fairness, treating everybody with equality. We talk of diversity. Therefore, pro-social behavior also means speaking a language of peace, speaking a language of love, speaking a language where you can resolve the conflict and not escalate the arguments, to know when to stop and when to do that. All these skills can be taught, my dear friends. As a psychologist, I've been conducting training workshops for children and college youth for last 25, 30 years, training them in positive virtues for good, positive mental health. Now, we are always going to face situations in life which will bring us anxiety and stress, which is normal. It's not pathological. These are normal human emotions which all of us feel in our day-to-day life. Research also tells us that the stress that we experience is only 30% from the external situation and 70% from our own perceptions and interpretation of the external situation. This is very interesting. There was a lady called Elizabeth Blackburn who won the Nobel Prize for proving this fact, that if you give meaning and purpose to the work that you're doing, which gives you stress, and the study was done on caregivers, mothers with special children as caregivers, some of them who had a meaning and purpose to their actions did not experience stress. But those who could not give a meaning and purpose experienced a lot of stress. So it's how I perceive the situation and how I perceive the stress. As leaders in Rotary, you can do wonders by creating a culture of openness and honesty. If you feel anxious or stressed, you can share it in the club by expressing your anxiety in a simple way. By sharing it with your colleagues, you actually create a connection. You create a bond. And this encourages others to do the same. You set a trend for promoting positive mental health in your club. Our president, Gordon McNally, did exactly this. By bringing his personal story on the world stage, he inspired thousands of Rotarians around the world to open up. Otherwise, we were under a lot of stigma. As we open up the conversations, the stigma will reduce. Our action group has a number of toolkits on the website free of cost to download. I would request all the members to visit our website at least once, have a look at the toolkits. We have Don't Bottle It Up, we have problem solving, resilience building, mindfulness, looking inward, and many, many more. Please visit our website at least once. Take care of your mind on a daily basis, and let's unite to advance mental health and to bring a peaceful world order. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita. And as always, every time I listen to you, I feel calm and rested because I think you just emit that type of emotion in people that brings us down and makes us relax. So thank you for your presentation. And I know you've been doing this for many, many years. And we just love that you're you're the leader of the Rotary Action Group for Mental Health Initiatives. With
Thank you
this,
so much.
I'm going to ask all the panelists to join us on the screen, and we've received several questions. So I'm going to pose the questions to all of you. I'll do the easy one first because they get harder and harder as we move along. The easy one: has the board of directors considered adding mental health wellness as an area of focus? And this is from Norlin Hinke. Gordon, do you want to take that?
Well, I'm happy to take it. And Norland, I guess the simple answer to your question is not yet. But to go a little bit deeper into it, first of all, I would suggest that if we want to work in the field of mental health through an area of focus or to create global grants, which are already being created for mental health, that can be done under the area of focus, disease prevention and treatment. It can be done under peace. Would I like to see an extra area of focus be added surrounding mental health? You bet I would. But I think at the moment that conversation is probably in its very embryonic form, and I happen to know the next chair of the trustees, bar one, very well. I see him every day in my mirror, and so if you watch this space, you might see something happening in the next couple of years. But please, anybody who is considering working in this field through global grants and working within an area of focus, yes, you can do so under disease prevention and treatment, or indeed peace and conflict prevention.
Thank you, Gordon, and good advice in the interim, and we'll see what happens in the near future. So
We need a
thank you.
lobby. We need a lobby.
Now, this is again for many people on the webinar. You're sitting at your desk or your computer or relaxing. We also have several clubs that are using this as their meeting today. So, again, I want to welcome them as well. We do have a question from an anonymous attendee. Many people have come to rely on me to provide support and leadership. When can a person learn to let others know they want to step back and be left alone to be by themselves?
Wow. Well, let me just Larry. Let me say that one of the shortest words in the English language is no, and but it's one of the hardest ones to use. And part of that is in Rotary we have been taught to say yes whenever it's within our power to do so. But only you know how much is on your plate right now. And only you can take responsibility for that. So if you feel like you're up to here and you can't handle any more, then feel comfortable saying to someone, you know, I appreciate the opportunity you're asking. I'm honored by that. With everything else that I have going on right now, I don't believe I could do justice to uh, that particular request. Um, and you know, you don't whether you don't have to necessarily go into all the things, you know, all the things going on in your life. Well, I just was diagnosed with something, or my spouse was diagnosed, or I had a setback at work, or whatever. You don't need necessarily have to share that, but only you know what you're going through. And I know for me, I don't want to take on another responsibility unless I feel I can do justice to it. So empower yourself to feel that way and feel okay saying no at this particular time. And then that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Ludwig, do you have any recommendations since you have been through this?
Well, maybe two small recommendations. One is think about the contrary of burnout. It could be light on in your face, in your mind. And the second one, let's think about bringing this very important issue to the Rotary Learning Center to make it easy accessible. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. And oh, Gordon, you wanted to comment?
No, I was going to just maybe lighten the moment slightly and think of a well-known song from Oklahoma. I'm just a girl who can't say no. And I think I'm just a guy who finds it hard to say no. And I think that probably applies to many of us. But Larry has hit the nail on the head when he says there are times when we have to be brave enough to say no.
Yes. Very good. And now I hear that song playing in the background. Okay. We've got a question from Malcolm Rooney. Are there mental health toolkits for children which focus on environmental degradation and the future world they will inherit? Because there's a great deal of concern and anxiety. Anyone?
Well,
Well, yeah.
not at,
Okay,
not
go
at this
ahead, Larry.
time, not at this time, but there certainly is. We're always looking for other toolkit proposals, and we can certainly take that under advisement. Hadn't heard that one before, but certainly it would be worthy of a toolkit. So, Rita?
What I would like to say here is that the Action Group for Mental Health would like to collaborate with the SRAGs, which works on environment. Right now, we are collaborating with the Rotary Action Group for Peace, and we have created a 4 series webinar, which is already started. We have started that last month. So we need to collaborate with the SRAGs to create a toolkit on environment and mental health. It can be done. It's not difficult.
Yep.
I think that's a wonderful idea to have the Rotary Action Groups collaborating because there is so much overlap and there's so much more that can be added to an initiative by having complementary resources. I will work on that, and I know Larry will and Rita will as well. So I think that's a great idea. I've got a question here from Himansu, and he's with the Reproductive Maternal Child Health Rotary Action Group. He asks if I think that a friend, such as a fellow Rotarian, has worsening depression, but he or she denies that there is anything wrong, what shall I do? Ignore or escalate it?
Well, I would say, the worst thing to do is to ignore it. And I would say, sometimes people are reluctant to bring up issues,
Mhm.
and we need to respect their privacy. But on the other hand, we need to kind of check in from time to time. And maybe when we first checked in, they weren't ready to say anything. Um, but I wouldn't allow that to dissuade me from going back to them another time and saying, I've just noticed some things that look a little different about you. You're looking a little more tired, a little more haggard. You've always been whatever it is. You've always been very fastidious about your clothing, and you seem to things to be letting some of that go. I'm just concerned about you, and if there's anything going on, if I can help, please let me know. I care about you. I think that's the message that people need to get. And if they're at any point that you are ready to talk to me or someone else about it, I want you to know that I would very much like to listen to you and help if I can. And so I wouldn't get dissuaded from never going back, because people, it's hard for people to ask for help. And just because they say the first time no, I would go back. I wouldn't pester them, but I would look for, especially if we saw things different about that person. Maybe they stopped coming to Rotary meetings, or they weren't involved in a service project that they're really been very passionate about. I mean, I would point out things like that and just say, I'm just wondering if there's something going on that I can help you with. So that's what I would say.
Well,
Gordon?
another way to, okay,
Go
sorry.
on.
Well, carry on, Rita.
Another way to approach the problem may be to go through a friend or a spouse of the person and talk to them and ask them if there is something we can do to help you, and do you
Good.
need help at home. And sometimes the peer group can be a very strong support system which can set things in motion. A friend of that person can always influence him more than we can do. As a professional psychologist, if I approach a person with a mental health problem, they may say, we don't need you. I don't have a problem. They may deny.
Mhm.
They're afraid of
So
being
we
locked
go
up. So yeah,
indirectly. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Gordon?
I, first of all, I defer to my professional colleagues, but I think the other thing, sometimes to broach the subject in a different environment. If you've asked the question at a Rotary meeting and perhaps not got to the bottom of things, to find a reason to have your friend in a different environment to then have that private conversation. But I agree with Larry that the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Mhm.
I've got a question here, and this is from somebody from Jamaica. Melissa, the Hurricane Melissa that went through Jamaica had wreaked havoc on many parts of the island, and actually are in a long recovery mode right now. The question is, how do we engage the or you engage the membership after this traumatic event? How do you engage people after a traumatic event? Anyone?
Shall I?
Sure, sure, Rita. Hmm.
So, uh, while we were discussing peace and mental health, we talked of peace and healing centers. And if we create peace and well-being and healing centers, wherever a disaster has taken place by the local Rotary clubs.
Mhm.
You can engage all the Rotarians who may be impacted and who may not be impacted in helping the community and helping themselves.
And that's something that I have seen is in Mexico, when there was the hurricane and the earthquake, we had some people go down to Mexico and teach breathing exercises and different techniques that they could use to help bring about some relaxation and release the anxiety. Anyone else have any comments? Larry?
Well, a comment was made earlier about psychological first aid. And there are a lot of places where, it would be a wonderful activity for any Rotary club to have members go through that and be available, like on disaster response teams or whatever. I'm a Red Cross mental health volunteer myself, but you don't have to be a mental health professional to get training in psychological first aid. So reaching, like our local community mental health center is teaching that. I think NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, oftentimes teaches that. So looking for an opportunity to have a speaker come in, maybe do some training on psychological first aid, I think would be another avenue that you could consider in a trauma. And very, very important way of providing some basic mental health help to those who have gone through a very traumatic experience.
Sounds like another way for the Mental Health Rotary Action Group to work with the disaster area Rotary Action Group, because again, I think bringing the skills to the people, having people prepared to provide those skills would be a wonderful asset for the disaster group as well as the mental health group. Okay. Now I've got a question. We are all adrenaline junkies. When can we realize we are reaching burnout?
Well, I would just say that when your effectiveness in the important areas in your life functioning is impaired. Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you having problems with your eating? Are your relationships suffering? Is your work suffering? Is your relationship with your spouse and your children suffering? Do you not care about things anymore? Look for those kinds of things and maybe listen to feedback from those around you. Rita made a very good point earlier about about tying into those around you, because sometimes we may not realize, we may not be the best judge of how much we're being impacted. We may think that we're coping quite well, but then a good friend says, boy, man, you look like you've aged 5 years, or man, you're just not interested in things. So trying to be aware on your own, looking for those kinds of signs, but also kind of checking in with the people around you, I think would kind of help tell you that it's having a major impact on you, and it might be time for a significant change.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions on this topic. And, all of the discussions appear to focus on the effect rather than the cause. And knowing that most Rotarians are type A personalities, how do we get somebody to realize that they are the cause of somebody's mental health conditions or anxiety, depression? How do we, what type of discussion do we have with somebody?
I think this would be a very good point for taking this up in leadership development. What sort of a leader does Rotary want? What are the qualities which leaders should have?
Mhm.
And sometimes I find in my own area, leaders trying to become superheroes. you talked of type A personality. So they overdo things. They may push people around. They may demand and expect more out of them when people are tired and exhausted. So stop trying to be a superhero and be more realistic with your goals and ambitions. And that is the balance which we all look for in our lives. And this has to come from awareness from within. Pointing it out you'll ruffle a lot of people. So it should be part of the training, leadership training. I mean, that's my idea.
Gordon?
I think if I may, yes, I don't disagree with Rita there, and I think essentially, I think it's all about being a team player and not being the type A superhero that drives everybody to the brink, and perhaps recognizing, we all have faults, we all have failings, but respect those who are working around you and encourage collaborative working rather than you being put on the pedestal. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard me say that, the president of Rotary International is no more important than any other of the 1.2 million members. And I've said that from the start, and I honestly believe that because we all have our part to play. And within that, there's only 24 hours in every day, 7 days in every week to play that part. And so, I'd like to think I'm certainly not a superhero. I say that categorically. And also, I don't think I'm a type A personality. But I think it's important. And so that comes back to what Rita was saying about selecting the right leaders and encouraging. And then that also feeds nicely into what Ludwig was saying about the learning that we give people, and to make it plain from the start that, being district governor is being a director of Rotary, being the president of Rotary, it's not pedestals that get successively higher. It is about working for the organization and working with each other and ultimately doing what this organization stands for, and that is making the world a better place.
Thank you. I think, we're almost at time. So I want to thank everyone, of course, Ludwig and Gordon and Larry and Rita for their participation and their wonderful presentations. And also Hunter Byington, who's been running the cameras. Some people have asked, if we'll send out the recording. We will send out the recording. And we're also going to re-record Ludwig so that we can have his smiling face on the recording. So again, we'll have that out probably in the day or two, along with the slides that Larry has provided. I'm going to turn it over to Gordon for final comments and to bring us to the end. The end, but really the beginning.
Yes, the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end, huh? Pat, you've been kind enough to thank everybody. I want to record my thanks to you, and I'm sure my thanks on behalf of everybody who's been a part of this for taking the initiative, for setting it up, and for being so diligent in making sure that it happens. It's been a real privilege to be with you all today, and a day that we're looking to a future where mental health isn't an afterthought, but actually becomes a cornerstone of the care and compassion that Rotary brings to the world. It is my firm belief that for far too long mental health has lived in the shadows. We speak about it, have spoken about it quietly, if at all. Yet every one of us knows someone who has struggled, and as Larry proved in his initial presentation, many of us have struggled ourselves. So I do believe this is the time for Rotary to move forward with purpose and with courage and with the same spirit of service that's defined us for the 121 years of our existence. We've always been at our best when we choose to confront the challenges nobody else will face. We did it with polio. We do it every day with our work for peace. And I think we need to do it again now by really championing good mental health in our communities and around the world. Because, as we all know, good mental health is not simply the absence of illness. It's more than that. It's the presence of resilience, presence of connection. Maybe more than that, it's the presence of hope. It's the knowledge that no one walks alone. And I firmly believe that Rotarians, through our networks and our compassion and our commitment to humanity, are uniquely positioned to begin that sense of building. But moving ahead requires more than good intentions. It's not enough to talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. It requires listening deeply to those with lived experience. It requires creating safe spaces where we can talk about mental well-being and those conversations are welcomed rather than avoided. It requires supporting initiatives that strengthen early intervention, access to care, and above all, we must reduce the stigma that still prevents far too many from seeking help. But maybe most importantly, it requires that we look after one another. We pride ourselves that Rotary is a family. How often have you heard the expression, family of Rotary? And families thrive when every member feels supported and valued and seen. So let's be the people, and I know this becomes a bit of a cliche, but let's be the people who don't just ask, how are you, but how are you really? And having asked that question, who are there to hear the answer? As we move forward, let's remember that promoting good mental health is not a project with an end date. It is a cultural shift, it's a promise we make to each other, and it's a legacy we can leave for generations of Rotarians to come. Together we can build that world where mental health and well-being is recognised as essential to a full life and a dignified life. And together we can ensure that hope is never out of reach. So thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you very soon.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, everyone. This was a wonderful discussion. And like Gordon said, it's just the beginning.